Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. Titen Emily Yaakov, Chesed Lavraham, Asher Nishbat Lavotenu Mimekedem. V'yivdechu b'chayde shemecha, ki lo zato roshecha Adonai, Adonai chavetz leman tzidkoho, yagdil torah v'yadir. Yitkada v'yitkada shemei rabba, v'amadi v'chirutei, v'amlich machutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chayedecho be'Yisrael, Pagala v'zman kaviv, imu amen.
Yeshmei rabba mevarach, v'elam le'omaya.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitparach v'yitma v'yitnaseh v'yidada v'yidala v'yidala shmet kudusha b'richu le'elam in gobechata v'shirata tushbata v'nechamata deman be'alma v'imu amen. V'ani tvilati l'chadonai et ratzon Elohim berov chasdecha neni be'emed yishecha. Vayihi bin Zaron, Vayomer Moshe, Kumarana Revutzoevecha, Ve'anusim esanecha mibanecha, Kimi Tzion Tete Torah, Dvaranai Mirushalayim, Baruch Shnatan Torah Le'amo Yisrael, B'Yushato. God rule Adonai Shemo
Hey, you're welcome to be seated. There are two places you can find the reading easily for today. We're reading from Parshat Ki Tavo. You can either find it in the Chumash. You can either find it in the Chumash on page
Page 1140.
1140, or if in the back of the weekday Sim Shalom, we have some of those on the shelf as well with the breakdown for Shabbat afternoon on page 314. Mark will read for us. We'll call the first Allah to the Torah. V'tiga lehi v'terei malchuto leinu b'zman karov. V'chom fleitatinu fleitat amo beit Yisrael lechenu chesed rachamim. Ratzon v'nomar amen hakol havu godel. Lelohinu shnu chavod laTorah ta'amod. Amit Yael, Bat Avraham, Umat Aliyah Laliyah Rishon Baruch Shetan Torah L'Amo Yisrael B'Kedushato. You can come around this side, and I spotted this thing.
No yad.
No yad? It's on the other Torah. Give me a second. Let me ask if maybe Alan, would you mind running an errand into the sanctuary? Hopefully it's open, and getting a yad for us. We can read the first aliyah, you'd think, without it, but then by the second, a yad from the sanctuary, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you. Okay, great. First aliyah. Here, come this side.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamavorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamavorach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Hamim V'Natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. V'haya ki tavo el haaretz asher Adonai Elohecha noten lecha nachala v'shtach v'shach v'chbach לקחת מראשית כל פרי האדמה אשר תביא מארצך אשר יהיה אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך ושמת בתנה והלכת למקום אשר יבחר אדוני אלוהיך לשכן שמו שם ובאת לכהן אשר יהיה בימים ההם ואמרת אליו והגדת היום לאדוני אלוהיך כי באתי אל הארץ אשר נשבע אדוני לאבותינו לתת לנו.
Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Natan Lanu Torat Emet V'Chaye Olam Nata B'Tochenu Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Someone's going to have a tough time doing a high on this.
The second aliyah begins with the fourth verse.
On page 1141, if you're following along with the Chumash. On the floor.
Ooh, I can't reach. Okay. Baruch Hu et Adonai Havarach. Baruch Adonai Havarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai Havarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. ולקח הכהן אתנה בידיך והניחו לפני מזבח אדוני אלוהיך בנית ואמרת לפני אדוני אלוהיך ארמי עובד אבי וירד מצרימה ויגרשם במטמאת ויהי שם לגוי גדול עצום ורב והרעו אותנו המצרים וענונו ויתנו עלינו עבודה קשה ונצעק אל אדוני אלוהי אבותינו וישמע אדוני את קולנו וירא את עוניינו ואת עמלנו ואת לחוצנו ויוציאנו אדוני ממצרים ביד חזקה ובזרוע נטויה ובמורא גדול ובעבתות ובמבטיחים והביאנו אל המקום הזה וייתן לנו את הארץ הזאת ארץ זבת חלב ודבש ועתה הנה הבאתי את ראשית פרי אדמה אשר נתת לי אדוני הנחת לפני אדוני אלוהיך אדוני אלוהיך והשתחווית לפני אדוני אלוהיך ושמחת בכל הטוב אשר נתן לך אדוני אלוהיך וביתך אתה והלוי והגר אשר בקרבך.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Mark's other side. Yamad. Reuben Meir. Ben Gershon Malka. Baliyah Shlishit. We're now up to verse 12.
On page 1142 in the Chumash.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Baruch.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. כי תחלל עשר כל מסר תבואתך בשנה השלישית שנת המסר ונתת ללוי לגר ליתום ואלמנה ואכלו בשעריך ושבעו ואמרת לפני אדוני אלוהיך ביארתי הקודש מן הבית וגם נתתי ללוי ולגר ליתום ואלמנה וכל מצוותך אשר ציוויתני כל לא עברתי ממצוותיך ולא שכחתי לא אכלתי ועונים ממנו ולא ביארתי ממנו בטמא ולא נתתי ממנו למת שמעתי וכל אדוני אלוהי עשיתי ככל אשר ציוויתני השקיפה ממעון קודשך מן השמיים וברך את עמך את ישראל ואת הרמה אשר נתת לנו כאשר נשבע לאבותינו ארץ זבת חלב ודבש.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Mark, will you be our Gola? Also, please, it's a big, heavy Torah.
Yeah.
Can we navigate it? Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
I'm not looking
Yamod
for anything.
hamagia, yamod hagolel. Should we bring a chair around, please, for Joey, so we can have one for Hagla? Thank you so much. Please rise for the lifting and the wrapping of our Sefer Torah.
Pull it down. Give yourself some leverage.
Like that?
Yeah, keep going. Torah.
You don't have to hold it long, you can just say it. Where's the binder? Please rise as we prepare to return the Torah to the Ark, or remain standing. We're on page 221.
Are they El Males?
Oh yes, thank you for reminding me, Joey. Is anyone here commemorating a yahrzeit, an anniversary of a death of a close one this particular week, and asking for a prayer to be said in memoriam on this particular week?
What about Zoom?
Unfortunately, the way that we're set up here, we're no longer connecting with those directly on Zoom. Not at this service, but we can do that on weekdays. Yeah, as had I after sabbatical. But if there's anyone else who is remembering someone in particular this week, thank you for reminding me, Joey. If not, then we'll continue in the service. We remain standing. We're on page 221. We'll return the Torah to the Ark.
Yahallelu et Shem Adonai, ki nizgah shemo levado, kol eretz v'shamayim v'yarim geren le'amo, tilalecho atzidav, livnei Yisrael am krovo, hallelujah, leDavid mizvor. Sushar Mashechem, Subit Cheolam V'Yom Melech HaKavod, Huza Melech HaKavod, Ki Huza Melech HaKavod, Adonai Tzvaot, Hu Melech HaKavod. V'uvnu Choyomai, כי לקחתו נתתי לכם, תעתי אל תעזובו, עץ חיים וכי המרכזים בה, ותמכך מאושר, דרכי נועם, וכל נתיבותיך שלום, השיבנו אדוני לך ונשובה, חדש ימינו כקדם.
To remain standing. We'll continue now with the Chatzi Kaddish, followed by the whispered private Amidah. We begin that in just a few moments on page 223, but that will follow the Chatzi Kaddish. Alan will lead us on page 222.
יתקדע ויקדש מרבה, ועמד יברכו תבם לכמחותה בחייכון וביומייכון וחייכו בישראל, בגלה בזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יש מרבה ברך לעולם ולמרמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפור ויתמר וינשא ויתהדר וידלה וידלש ומתקודשה בריחו. לאלה מן כה ברכתה ושירתה תושבתה ונחמתה דרמן ברמה ואמרו אמן.
If you haven't yet completed your own private Amidah, please continue at your own pace. We're on page 223, again, after the Kedusha on page 225. You're welcome to be seated. Again, we're on page 223.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech avotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzhak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah El HaGadol HaGibor HaNorah Eloyon Gomer Chasadim Tovim V'Gonei HaKol וזוכר חסדי אבות ומביא גואל לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר בוגר מושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בוגר צבא. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מלחמת אברהם ולהושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחליטים רחמים רבים, שמח נופלים והופך חולים ומתיר אסורים, מקיים ענתו לשנה עבר, מי כמוך בגבורות ומידו מלך, מלך מבינוכם מצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי המתים. נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמעתי שמותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר. קדוש, 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 ענת צבאו, מלוך הארץ כבודו, למעתם ברוך ימיהו. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו, דברי קודשך כתוב לאמור. ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, לנצח נצח עם קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו, מבינו למוש לעולם ועד, כי המלך גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. אתה חד ושמך חד, מברך זוגו אחד בארץ, תפארת גדולה, ועטרת ישועה, יום מנוחה קדושה לעמך נתת, אברהם יגר, יצחק ירנן, יעקב ובניו ינוחו בו, מנוחת אהבה ונדבה, מנוחת אמת ואמונה, מנוחת שלום ושלווה השקט בבטח, מנוחה שלמה שאתה רוצה בה, יכירו בניך, וידעו כי איתך כי היא מנוחתם, ועל מנוחתם יקדישו את שמך. אלוהינו אלוהי אבותינו, את במנוחתנו, קדשנו במצוותיך, ותן חלקנו בתורתך, סבנו מטובך, ושמחנו בישועתך, וטהר ליבנו לעבדך באמת, והנחילנו אדוני אלוהינו בעבר ורצון שבת קודשך, וינוחו ויעשו מקדשי שמך, ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. ויצא אדוני אלוהינו במחר ותפילתם, והשבת על ידי ביתך ותפילתם בעבודתך ברצון. ותהי רצון תמיד עבודת ישראל עמך, ותחזינה עינינו בשובך לציון ברחמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחזיר שכינתו לציון. מודים אנחנו לך שתרננו. הטוב גילוך לרחמך, ברכן גילותם וחסדיך, מעולם קיווינו לך. ועל כולם יתברך ויתרום שמך מלכנו תמיד לעולם ועד, בכל אחר ידוך סלע, ויעלו את שמך באמת, והאש ותן רצוותנו סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך לכנה להודות. שלום רב ישראל עמך, ועל כל יושבי תבל תשים לעולם, כי אתה מלך אדון לכל השלום. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום, וטוב בעיניך לברך נמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. ברוך אתה אדוני המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום. צדקתך צדק לעולם, ותורתך אמת, וצדקתך אלוהים, עד מרום אשר עשית גדולות אלוהים מחמוך. צדקתך בחריאל, משפטך טהור רבה. אדם ובהמה תושיע אדוני. Kaddish Shalem on page 230. Yitkada v'yigada shmei Rabba, ve'Abba divrei v'amlich malchutei b'chayechon u'yomechon v'chayrecho be'Yisrael, v'agalav v'zman kavivim u'amen.
Yeshem Hebrew Baruch Le'olam Be'omaya.
Yitbarach v'yishabach v'yitbar v'yitman v'yinaseh v'yidadar v'yidaleh v'yidaleh shmer gudusha b'rechu le'ela min go b'yachata v'shirata tushbada v'nechamata d'ron b'amavim u'amen. Titkabas l'rachon d'cho Yisrael kadam l'ushmayavim u'amen. Yehi shalom v'rava min shemaya v'chayim alenu v'ko Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'momav hu yaseh shalom alenu v'ko Yisrael.
Before
Amen.
Alina, I'll ask you to please rise for a prayer for the state of Israel, for the IDF, and for all those who remain in captivity.
Mi sheberach avotenu Avraham Yitzhak v'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah hu yevarech et medinat Yisrael sheteherishit tzmichat gulatenu hagen aleha be'evrat chastecha ufros aleh sukat shlomecha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yevarech et Chayalei Tzva Hagana Yisrael v'yishmor v'yintzor et kol hashvuyim. Ribono shel olam Yemalei rachamim aleihem v'yotzeim mehoshech v'tzal mavet v'mosvotehem yenatek mitokoteihem yoshiem v'yishivei me'olah lechek mishpachotehem. Yiten Adonai et oyevenu hakamim aleinu migafim lifnei chayalenu v'natata shalom ba'aretz v'simchat olam l'chol yoshveha v'nomar amen.
Amen. We remain standing. Alina is on page 231.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol. V'ne'emar v'yadonai l'melech kol ha'aretz v'yom Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
Mourner's Kaddish is on page 232.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabab ve'alma divrach chirutei ve'amlich malchutei v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael v'agala u'vizman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach le'olam v'lomei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpoar v'yitramam v'yitneseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'momav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Amen. Yesher koach, Alan. Thanks for leading us. Yesher koach to Mark for chanting Torah for us, even that first Aliyah without a yad. And Yesher koach to Joey for that Hagba in particular, and to all those who participated in services so far today. We're going to take a break to have a little bit of Sudash Lishit, go and nourish ourselves a little bit, bring the food back to the table, and then I will pass out some learning sheets so that we can do some Torah learning together. I'd like to ask that everybody, if possible, also have a chumash in front of you, or at least one to share with a neighbor. If you put it back already, I apologize that I didn't catch you before you did that, but I'll ask that we get a few more on the table. Please go, B'tei Avon, enjoy, and we'll start to learn in maybe another 10 minutes or so.
Does anyone know when they're going to be doing Mariv tonight?
It will be after the study session, and this shul's minhag is you don't unmute for mourners.
Okay.
But at the whole mincha marav, food break, study, I'm sorry, mincha, food break, study, marav usually takes about an hour and 45 minutes. And then Havdalah at the end, sorry. It's about an hour 45.
So maybe jump back on in an hour for Mariv, do you think, or more?
Oh, no, I think maybe less because we're already half an hour into it. I mean, look up this shul. I happen to be in Maryland. I'm an out of town member. So I don't know offhand what sundown is in Los Angeles, but this shul moves according to when sundown is. So if you look at when sundown is in Los Angeles, you'll have a sense of when they'll be doing Marv.
Okay. Thank you. I'm also in Maryland.
I actually knew that. That's why I said that. Because your name is unusual, and I looked up and I went, "Oh, how about that?" Somebody else
I'm friends with Richard Cameron. Yeah.
And actually, there was, I think, someone else in Maryland on, but she left. A rabbi from, I know the name, I don't know her, who does the Soul Center.
Yeah.
She was on for a few
Oh.
minutes.
You know what? It was me. I was on my husband's. I switched over to my husband's phones because he has more charge. I lost.
Oh, you're the same person because I thought I know that name. How do I know that name? And
Yeah.
I looked up. Oh, very interesting.
Are you in Maryland also?
I am in Maryland.
Oh, where?
I'm in North Bethesda.
Oh, that's so nice. Yeah, I have colleagues out there.
I found some other conservative congregations, not just Betham, but I found them in the pandemic, and I joined as an out-of-town member. Anyways,
That
that's
is
my.
so nice. I love that. Well, thank you. So okay, so you're really like on the same schedule as me. So I was actually really just trying to jump on for Mari tonight. So you would say probably
I think he's done with it.
can look up LA
Oh, let
time.
me. I mean, I would just do sundown.
Really?
U.S. Navy Observatory. And actually, just to let you know, the way they have it set up now, they can't hear us anymore in where they are. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's interesting. So
So if you had a question, I don't think they can hear us anymore. Gary and Marlise probably know because sometimes Gary and Marlise are there in person, but I think that's what they said, that the way they have it now, that it's hybrid, they can't hear us.
Join us at 7:30 West Coast time, which is 10:30 your time.
okay, that's so
Do it-
helpful.
to-
Thank
to
you
be-
both so much.
Be safe. Do it 7:25.
Okay, beautiful. 10:25. Thank you both so much. This has been so helpful, and I'm grateful for your guidance. I'll see you soon.
Okay, for those of you who already are seated, in the interest of being ready in time, I'm not going to start teaching yet, but I am going to ask people who are already seated to get the books near them open to the right page for us to get started. And that way we'll be ready to go. So I'll ask that if you have a Chumash, an Eitz Chaim Bible that contains the 5 books of Moses organized by Parsha, Torah portion, interpolated with the Haftarot that we read each week. Okay, this book, if you'll open to page 1024, 1024, that's where we're going to start today. It is, spoiler alert, not this week's Parsha where we're starting this week. So we're going to start with 1024. Also, I have not passed the sheets out yet. You're not imagining things. I'm going to have us looking in the book first. So if you'll open to 1024, we'll be ready to go. Okay, is everybody hearing me pretty clearly? It's not too muffled. It's a little funky for me with the white noise. I was really, total aside, did anyone else a devotee of Apple announcements? Anyone else enjoy like Apple products announcements? Listen from start to finish? This is just, no one else here like listens to the Silicon Valley announcements? Very exciting. The new Apple AirPods are going to be equipped as over-the-counter hearing aids. So already it's the case. This is crazy. I don't know if you know this. Yeah. I don't know if you know this, but I've had a very significant hearing loss in my left ear and progressive since I was young. I hear perfectly fine in my right ear, but my left ear is not great in the speech range and higher. So it's hard for me sometimes when I have like white noise. It would be harder if it was hot in here, but the white noise is sometimes difficult. And I have, since 2003, I have what's called audiograms, which are graphs or grams of my hearing from each ear, like little spikes. And I input my audiograms to my AirPods, and my AirPods already do that for me. They adjust to the audiograms. So the way that I wear my AirPods actually adjusts to the way that I hear. And now they're going to work yet a step better. So I've been thinking a lot about like, Shabbat might actually get harder if the rest of my day is I'm going to maybe try wearing them as over-the-counter hearing aids. As somebody with a unilateral loss, I've avoided wearing hearing aids because it's hard to have that imbalance. But anyway, it's like, sometimes it helps for me to be a little bit explicit that it is very hard for me to hear on this side. If you're trying to contribute from this side, give me a harder wave. I may really not hear you. It's much harder on this side. Thank you for telling me that's good information. I really do struggle. Okay, so we're on page 1024 in our Chumash. And on that page is a piece of our biblical canon that has been grafted directly into liturgy and used regularly as a part of Jewish ritual life for a very long time. What is that piece of liturgy? The Shema. As we're going to find out today, there is another piece in the very book of Devarim that might be very mad to find out that there's another part of the book of Devarim that's called the Shema. Because there's another, the Shema, in the book of Devarim, in the Parsha, in our Parsha to come, in Ki Tavo. And I want us to look at the differential between the two, what's missing and what's present in each of the two places, and it's the very thing that's present in Ki Tavo that's not present here. Don't peek ahead yet. But what's not there this time that is there in Ki Tavo? And what do we do with that extra saying? So here we're in the middle of just a story. The context is, dare I say, a little dry. Vizot Mitzvah begins chapter 6 on page 1023. These are going to be the instructions, the chukim and mishpatim, that God is commanding to teach to you to do in the land that we are going to go to. And it's going to be a land, ... page 1024 that you've turned to, that is going to be, just as we ended today's Torah reading, so we get back to it over and over again, a land that is Zavat Chalav Udavash, or as we say in English, right, it's a land flowing with milk and date. It's not the honey we think of, but anyway, for another Josh, okay. And then we can do it like Zolzer wrote it. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. And what immediately happens after that? V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha in the Eastern Ashkenazi trope. Goes directly into that, or rather, I should say it the opposite way. The way that we grafted it into parts of our liturgy goes straight from verse 4 into verse 5. We keep going directly into it. Where else does this show up in ritual life? Not just in our liturgy and the day-to-day trappings of our tefillah cycle, our prayer cycle. Where else does this show up? You can just shout it out loudly. Before going to sleep, good. Where is it written? In our mezuzah, good. Where else is it written? Tefillin, good. Anywhere else? Anywhere else I'm missing? Okay. Sometimes I miss something. I don't know. That wasn't, what's that? Yeah, the brachot by proxy, good. Yeah, that wasn't Socratic. I was just thinking maybe I was missing something. Okay, good. So it shows up a lot. How many times a day do we say this verse 4? At least. Okay, great. So the rabbis say we should say it at least twice. Liturgically, in its evolution, most Ashkenazim from Eastern traditions, Eastern European traditions, wind up saying it at least 4 times. There are 2 extra times I can think of that it's fixed, one in the prayer book and one not necessarily in a prayer book. Marshall already added one, which is many people say what I would often refer to as the mini vidui, the bedtime Shema. We say that sleep is like 1/60th of death. As we say at the end of Adon Olam, we hand over our soul to God as we sleep. It's as if we are resting our soul in God's hand each night as we go to sleep. So we say this mini Shema, the thing that we would say as if we were saying goodbye to the whole world, because every morning when we wake up, we say, Moda ani lefanecha melechai v'kayam shechazarta bi nishmati. Grateful am I, God, that you gave my soul back to me. It's a little bit of a surprise, not entirely, sometimes even more a surprise than others, depending on what our health is. And so we say Shema at bedtime every night. There's another place every morning in our liturgy. We have this nice visual on the wall, thanks to Rabbi Schatz. And the Birkot HaShachar, the blessings of the dawn, we have a recitation of Shema fixed in those blessings. We say the Shema every morning with a little recitation of Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed just beneath it, just like we do in the 2 times of Shacharit and Mariv. In the paragraph of Ve'ahavta, we won't go into study this too deeply right now because, again, we're really here to study the Shema that's in our coming week's Parsha, not this one. But we say that we get a merism. Anyone remember the fancy word merism? Big Jeopardy points. I think Alan's heard me teach this many times.
I learned this verse from Rabbi Klickfeld. Merism means the whole gamut, A to Z. You say soup to nuts.
Soup to nuts, great.
High and low when you're looking.
That's right, and nods from someone else who went to the Jewish Theological Seminary, who heard this word many times. So in the Ve'ahavta paragraph, page 1026, I'll point it out in the English. I'll bounce between teaching in the Hebrew and the English of this. When you lie down and when you get up. And so the rabbis say, aha! So we should say it twice a day, which is why we fix it in Mariv, the evening service, and also in Shachari, and consider those required. I want you to hold that thought for our third source on the page I'm about to give you. So we should say it at least twice a day. I want you to just think for a moment before I hand out the source sheets about the context of this teaching. These V'zot mitzvah, hachukim ve'mishpatim. This is just going to be the Torah that I'm teaching you. This is what I'm commanded to teach to all the people because this is what God said I should teach you, that you should learn. It should be taught as you're going into this new land that you're going to be living in. Here's the teaching. That's the context of this Shema. 23 chapters later, we get a different Shema, and we're going to look at it together right now. I'll hand a stack this way and a stack that way. I'll let you pass this stack. Pass this stack to your take one past you. I think there's one for each person. Now, while I was on sabbatical for 3 months, Safaria changed, and I didn't realize when I hit print, and it's on me that I didn't look, that the source is only printed in English, which is only a challenge to me to point out to you a lot of the Hebraic nuances of these sources. We'll have a little fun together, and then next time I'll print the Hebrew too. Go ahead and turn to Parshat Ki Tavo in your Chumash. You can turn to page 1145, where the verse begins at the bottom of the page. Here is, I don't want to offend it. I don't want to say the other Shema. It's also just the Shema in Devarim, right? Vayidaber Moshe. Who's speaking? Moshe. But let me finish the thought. Ve'hakohanim haleviim. Who are they? Priests. A subdivision of the priestly class. So they're speaking together. They're teaching together. And they spoke. El, which is a preposition, like to. Like, who are they speaking to? Did say Kol on that page. Kol Yisrael. I never trust my eyes. Kol Yisrael. Lemor. And what did they say to them? Saying, Hasket. I'm not going to translate that yet. U'Shema Yisrael. There's our Shema Yisrael. What does that mean? Well, how do we usually translate that? Hear, O Israel. Hayom Hazeh. Nihyeta la'am. On this day, this would be my translation, you are transforming to a people. It's like, it's the lihyot, but it's this sort of like, kind of, you're transmogrifying. You are, it's a bit magical. You are in the process of becoming. The tense is a little murky. A flip has happened, a change has happened. You've become a people, nihyeta la'am, and le is a little wonky there too, but we don't have time to go into that. Ladonai Elohecha. You're not just becoming a people, you're becoming a people bonded to a God. Shema Yisrael, you are becoming a people. Two things are happening. You are becoming a people, and you're becoming a people connected to a God. All of that is very interesting, but I am most interested in the shh. part of this. What is this hasket business? Can anyone translate it for me? Before Ushma Yisrael, how would you translate this word? I will tell you, in source number 2, Ibn Ezra is there to tell us. He has no idea. He says you cannot translate it. How would you translate it?
Based on the context, they cannot be used, the way the Hamas translates it.
Yeah? Okay, how did they translate it?
Silence.
Okay, how would you deliver that line, Joey? How would you, if you were an actor delivering that line?
Silence.
Silence. It's its own command, right? Sivui? Hasket. And there's even a vertical line in our text, editorial line. Hasket. Even though there's a conjunctive ooh, and Shema Yisrael. Yeah. Okay, anyone else want to translate it? Always safe to go with the way, I trust the editors of this book. Very safe bet. Okay. Anyone else? Hasket. Okay. I am going to, you know how they tell you like in job interviews when someone asks you a question, you should answer with a story? And I always think to myself, this is why Jewish people sometimes get really good jobs, because we're very good at answering questions with stories, right? Don't just tell them an answer, tell them a story. I'm going to tell you a story, and it's source number 3 on our sheet. Are you ready? Rav Mari. This is the 16th page of the first tractate in the order that we tend to order the Babylonian Talmud in. So it's pretty early on in the Talmud. Rav Mari is the grandson of Shmuel. And he raises a contradiction in front of Rava. He says, now in the Mishnah, what we learned was that laborers, who are laborers? Workers, and I'm going to give you a little context. Workers who are out there working, let's say, a job in a work site. Okay, let's call it a work site of some kind. Got it? Labor, like, this is perfect for you. Okay, workers on a work site. Okay, can't say anything about whether they're unionized or not, but they're workers on a work site. Great. I sure needed one. Okay, great. Laborers, well, we'll have that conversation later. But laborers, they're laborers. Laborers may recite the Shema. They're permitted to recite the Shema. And we're mid-conversation about what we just said before. How many times a day must we minimally say the Shema? What did we say before? Twice. Okay, so twice. So how, in what context can we get them saying the Shema? They're permitted to say the Shema in the top, when they're up in a tree or on top of a pile of stones. Pause for that for a second. What's the context here? Why would they be up in a tree and need to say the Shema? Interesting. Okay, so AJ, what I'm going to repeat, I'm going to summarize a little something. AJ is naming the context that there might be a collective service that's happening in that moment, and they're being told, this laborer who is at the top of some pile of something or a tree, they're being told the service is happening now. Mincha, mincha. It's being called for right now, or rather in this case, Mariv or Shacharit, I should be precise. It's being called for right now. Come down. Can they say it? Can they not? That's what's being discussed. Anyone else? The context. What's the context? Why might there be a sensitivity to needing to say it while someone is in a tree or on top of a pile of stones? Yeah, thought?
Because it could be dangerous if they had too much focus on saying the Shema.
Okay, it could be dangerous if they had too much focus on saying the Shema. What could be the danger?
They're up on a tree, or they're on stones that they could fall off of.
So, and therefore, so what's the takeaway then? That they can recite, but they're allowed to recite it there. Okay, so they can just say it. They're allowed to just say it while they're up there. So they should just be able to say it and not think about it too much. That's what it is. So he's saying that we learned in our Mishnah Don't worry about anything except just getting the words out of your mouth. That's what they learned in the Mishnah, is what you're saying, because we're up on top of a tree. And when you're up on top of a tree, you're thinking about a lot of things. If you got to say the Shema, just get the words out. That's what we're learning. Got it. Okay, great. Good. Did I get that right? Did I echo that right? Okay, great. I also want to name, in case it's obvious to some but not obvious to all, that Mari, weirdly, I mean, this still applies to Mari, but we don't think about it as often because, of course, there are many hours in which we're sleeping during this time. But Mariv and Shachrit are time-bound. All of our tefillot, all of our prayers have a time-bound sense to them. The rabbis fixed hours. They said, if you're going to do morning prayers, got to do them in the morning. And here's when those hours are. So part of this, the setup for this story is maybe it's the time to say the Shema of the evening, right? The setup for the beginning of the whole tractate is Me'ematai Kiryat Shema. What's the time when you need to do the Shema in the evening? So it sort of starts from this pretext, right, or a context that we have a time at which we need to say these things. Okay, so he says laborers are allowed to just say Shema Yisrael while they're hanging on to a swinging branch at the top of the tree, and then they're going to go back to harvesting the olives or whatever else they're doing up there. And he goes on to say, we see, as you're pointing out, we see he does not require any kind of kavanah, any kind of intent. But then Rav Mari, this grandson of Shmuel, says, he raises a contradiction to that teaching, and he says, but you can't just say Shema. You have to focus your heart, because it says Shema Yisrael. He says, first of all, back there on page 1024 in my Eitz Chaim Chumash that I read every week. I'm just kidding, but it was funny when I thought about it. Back there in the first Shema that we heard, it says Shema, listen. So in the context of the verse, it says you should actually hear yourself saying it. And secondly, I read that second Shema, the one that we're looking at right now in Ki Tavo, and it says Hasket. You got to pay attention. Pay attention. So too, here, one must pay attention. What's happening for Rav Mari? What is he learning from one place to another? How is he applying something from one place in our Tanakh to another place in our Tanakh? Anyone seeing the connection? How is he taking something from one place in our Tanakh and applying it to another place in our Tanakh? Great. So in a secondary reading of the Shema, we're taking the meaning from just accidentally thinking it's saying lishmoa, like you should hear something, and really understanding it as listen. I think what we're doing is learning that even though in the plain context of the original text that is clearly grafted, not just that one-liner of Shema, but as I pointed out, not just verse 4, but then moving on to verse 5 and 6, ve'ahavta, that whole paragraph, and then another paragraph and another that we do twice a day, in that plain context, there's nothing that says, shh, hasket. But Rav Mari says, but later when we get those same two words together, just a few paragraphs later, we get the Moshe and the Kohanim HaLeviim saying, shh, Ushma Yisrael. He says, I think we need to learn something from that. We have to get quiet first. There's serious meaning here. We have to pay attention. I want to wrap up our learning by saying one last thing about this special idea. If you take nothing else away from this learning, it should be that no one knows what hasket actually means, okay? So it's all contextual derivation. It's all rabbinic wisdom and just Jews trying to understand what Moshe and the Kohanim HaLeviim wanted us to understand before we heard these two words again in our Torah. So this is all derivative. of the text that we're looking at, which means that they wanted to be playful and have some fun with it. And that's wonderful, I think. I think it's great when we like to have a little bit of fun with text. So we're going to go way back in the time machine to a very early set of stories in Midrash Tanchuma, which you may hear often pulled on by Rashi, who's our 11th through 13th century collection of French commentary. This is not from Rashi. Well, maybe Rashi pulls on this, I'm not sure. But I got this directly from Midrash Tanchuma. And he's talking about this verse, and the author, the collector of these stories, I think it's like what we call an anthology nowadays. Does that make sense? Like it's a collection of different little pithy tales on what people thought a word or a phrase or a story might mean. And on this verse, on 27:9, the Hasket Ushma Yisrael, there are a few really interesting takes. So Moshe, the Kohanim Leviim, I'll go back and read us our direct verse again. They said, Vaydaber Moshe ve'Kohanim HaLeviim El Kol Yisrael Lemor Hasket Ushma Yisrael. So Midrash Tanchuma asked the question, what is the meaning of Hasket? And then the following Ushma. They said you have to break down this word into two parts. Has. What is has? Like hush. Okay, actually has a what's the word I'm looking for? A lexical connection across different languages. Shh. Has. And then katet or katit or katat, which you'll see in the next derivation too. Break it down. Be silent, and then break down, as in break yourselves down. Be quiet, and then break yourselves down. Alan has a thought.
Notion
Mm-hmm.
dividing a word into two words to make it a drush is from the Greek notrikun. And what it does, we talk about it even, how do we know that we're supposed to talk and expand about what goes on in Passover? Even the very name is peh,
Sach.
the mouth that speaks.
So Alan's bringing up this. I'm just repeating for posterity and those who are online, that notrikun is this idea from Greek discourse, ancient Greek discourse, that breaking up a word, we can find subdivisions of meaning in those various parts of the word or syllables of a word. And Pesach itself, which is a night of discourse, has different meanings in breaking down the syllabic pieces of Pe and Sach. And it's my understanding, though I'm sure Rabbi Kligfeld can give me more insight to this because he's taught Rashi for so many years, that part of that practice that Rashi loves so much to do notrikun with comes from his love of digging into Midrash Tanchuma, because Midrash Tanchuma is full of notrikun, of a very similar practice. And I don't know much about it, about the Near Eastern practices of doing this so often and the Greek history of that, but yes, it is beloved. People love to break it down. And I think the next one also is kind of a form of that. And then it goes on to say also, has, and then Moshe said to Israel, has, and then kitot. Has, be quiet, and then do chevruta. Be quiet, and then learn. Has, and divide yourself into kitot and into classes of people. Or has, and then another interpretation, davar acher, he said to them, you should katetu, you should pound your hearts and souls to hear the words of Torah. What all of these things have in common is something really wonderful, and I'm going to leave you with this. It's a little bit, it has the danger of what I would call pediatric Judaism, but I think it's a false pediatric part of Judaism. Ella and I were just talking a minute ago about how in early childhood classrooms, our teachers like to hold up their three fingers. What letter does this look like? The shin. And what do they like to do? They go, Shema. Now, it works nicely with 3 and 4 and 5-year-olds in particular, and a little older. And it has the danger, it sounds like that's something that you would do with children. But I think that we see centuries and centuries of ancient truth seeking into this word hasket and trying to understand what leaders standing before a collective that is in the process of nihieta am ladonai, trying to become a people, a buzzing cohort of people who are a little bit crazed, and they couldn't just say Shema Yisrael, listen Israel. They had to say Hasket. What were they trying to do? How do we know that they didn't stand up there and go shh to the whole people and get them to say Shu Shema Yisrael? It might have been very effective at the time. So my encouragement to you is to think about what it is that you need. And it might be that little mnemonic of shh in the Shema Yisrael. But what do you need to do to still your self and still your soul and still your heart such that you can take those few pieces that our rabbis beg us in the tradition and say, you can't just say it such that you fulfilled it. You actually do need to attune yourself and give kavanah and be fully at a point of attention and not just be Shema Yisrael, but Hasket Ushma Yisrael. And see what comes to you, trying that out in a liturgical space. Thanks for the learning today. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We'll do a Kaddish D'Rabbanan in just a moment, but first we need to do a Birkat Hamazon, somebody who ate bread. Is there anyone who hasn't yet participated today who wants to lead us in a Shir Hamalot? Anyone who hasn't had a chance? There's such a robust crowd. Anyone who hasn't had an honor or a something today who wants to lead us in a Shir Hamalot? It's very low stakes. Oh, also who ate some bread, maybe, I don't know. No? Anyone who's just feeling very excited to lead a Shir Hamalot? All right. Anyone had bread? Maybe no one ate bread. I didn't watch. Anyone? Oh, I think there are other bagels. It's just gotta, it's the volunteership. All we need is someone to give us Shir Hamalot, a Zimun, and then we'll go quiet. So. Kaddish Rabbanan is on page 38. Yitkadal, v'yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma, Divra, Kirute, V'amlich, Malchute, V'chayechon, V'yomechon, Uv'chayei, Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agalah, Ubizman, Kari, V'imru, Amen. Yehi, Shemei Rabbah, Mevarach, Le'olam Ulamei Amaya. Yitbarach, V'yishabach, V'yitba'ar, V'yitraman, V'yitnaseh. V'yitadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitalal, Shemech Dekudsha, Barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiram ve'alma ve'imru, amen. Al Yisrael ve'al Rabbanan ve'al Talmidehon, ve'al kol Talmidehon, ve'al kol man de'askin be'oraita, di ve'atra hadain, ve'di ve'chol atar va'atar. Yehi lahon olchon, shalama rabba, china v'chisra v'rachamin, v'chayin arichin umzona ravicha, Uforkana min kadam avuhon divishmaya ve'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya ve'chayim tovim alenu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu berachamav ya'aseh shalom alenu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Mari begins on page 264 after the Baruch Hu. You may be seated.
והוא אלחם יכפר עוון ולא ישחית, ובעל השיבה פה ולא ירקול חמתו, אדוני אשר מלך יעננו ויום כהנו, ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד, ברוך את אדוני אלינו מלך העולם אשר בדברו. ומביא יום ומביא לילה, מבדיל בין יום ולילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים תמיד נמלך עלינו לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב ערבים, ואת עולם בית ישראל עמך, כי הם חיינו ואורך יומנו, וכם נגע יומם ולילה, ואבטחל תשים ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Adonai Elohim emet, emet v'emunah kol zeh v'kayim. ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליכם משה ומרים ובני ישראל לכאן אשר בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נועתי לו תוספת מלכותך ראו בניך בוקר ים לפני משה זה אלי אנו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר כי בד אדוני את יעקב וגולו יאמר חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל השכיבנו אדוני לשלום החיים ולשלום סוכת שמחת עולם מצר טוב ומחנך ושמור צאתנו ועינו לחיים ושלום ותביעת עולם ברוך אתה אדוני שומר עמו ישראל לעד ברוך אדוני לעולם אמן ואמן ברוך אדוני מצרים שכן ירושלים הללויה ברוך אדוני ישראל ישמח עלינו במעשיו וישמר לנו רחמת תביעת עולם כי המלכות שלך היא על מי תמלוך בכבוד כי אין לנו מלך אלא אתה ברוך אתה אדוני המלך בכבודו תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד על כל מעשיו יקדל ויקדש שמר רבה ועלמד יברך ירתה וימליך מלכותה בחייכם וימיכם וחיי כל בית ישראל בגלה בזמן קריב אמרו אין יהי שמרה במברך לעולם המאמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ותדע ותלה ותלה שמי דקודשה לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבתה ונחמתה דמרם בימה ואמרו Amen.
Page 270, we rise for the whispered private Amidah for Saturday evening. If you're not using a Siddur Lev Shalem and you're using a Siddur for weekday Amidah for the evening, please be sure to make inclusions for the end of Shabbat in Lev Shalem. Again, we're on page 270.
Where do you go next?
And then to 216.
Okay.
Yeah, that page turn is the worst page turn in the book, I think. And I'll let me see which is page like 400 something. Whatever. But yeah, to 216. And then back.
Oh, you want to call them up for?
It's to 216 for Vikadosh.
Okay, so from here to 216. Okay.
To Vitakadosh, right?
Okay.
And then back to Kadisha and I'll announce it.
Okay.
It's a terrible page turn, sorry.
Oh, we're starting. Okay.
If you've not yet completed your own private Amidah, please continue at your own pace. We're on page 279, Chatzi Kaddish. After the Chatzi Kaddish, you're welcome to be seated as we continue on page 279.
G'day v'g'day shmei rabba. Yamadi v'achir tevim l'chokotei b'chaychom v'yamachon v'chaydei chol Beit Yisrael b'agalav izman kari v'imru. Amen. Yesh me'v'rat olam. Yibrach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitbam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitala shmei t'kudsha. V'ela min kol berchata v'shira ta t'chukota v'nechmata da'miram b'yama v'imru. Amen. Yino amad Adonai aleinu v'leinu masay yadeinu k'nanei aleinu masay. You Orach yamim asbiehu, arehu bishuati. Orach yamim asbiehu, arehu bishuati.
We turn back to page 216 to the second large paragraph on the page.
Kadosh Hashem Tilot Yisrael v'kal zeh el zeh v'amar Kadosh 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 Adonai Tzvaot Melech Haaretz Kavoda Akablim Tein Mideim V'tasienu Rach v'shma Achrei Kol Rash Gadol Baruch Adonai Mimkomo Adonai Imloch Le'olam Va'ed Adonai Malchatei Chayim שנשבעת לאבותינו מימי קדם, ברוך אדוני יום יום, יעשה לנו האל ישועתנו סלע, אדוני צבאות, נשכב לנו אלוהינו, כל סלע חדש. לא ידום, אדוני אלוהי לעולם עודך, חגבר אשר יפתח ויבטחו בך ירדי שמך, כי לא עזבת דורשך. Adonai, Adonai chafetz l'man tzidko, yagdil Torah v'yadir.
Turn back or forward, depending on the way you look at it, to page 280, Kaddish Shalem.
Yikra v'yikra shomei rabba, v'yamad yivachir tevim l'chmakotei, b'chaychom v'yamechon v'chayde chol Beit Yisrael, b'agalav izman kari v'imru. En yehi shmei rabba mevorach, le'olam ha'omaya, yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitumam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitala shmei t'kudsha. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata t'shpata v'nechmata damiram b'yama v'imru. תקבל סרטון ותכון תכל ישראל, קדמה והוני ושמיים ואמרו. יהי שלום רב מן שמיים וחיים, עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו. עושה שלום בממה ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו. אמן. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל לתקלל לשבש ישלו סלם ועצוב ולא ישמע. קוראים ומשתחווים וקוראים עצמים לקדוש ברוך הוא שלא תשמע ושמעים ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו, ושמו
אחד. We turn back in our Sidurim to page 59 to add a psalm for the season of Elul. Page 59.
Okay. אדוני אוהב איש ממי, אדוני מרש חיי ממי, יכול בכל הלילה. Thank you. לולא האמנתי לראות בטוב אדוני בארץ חיים, קווה אל אדוני חזק ויאמץ ליבך וקווה אל אדוני.
Finally, Mourner's Kaddish, page 282.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
בעלמא דברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בגלה וזמן קריב ואמרו יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו. לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תשבחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמא ואמרו יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
Amen. Yeshar Koach. Did you want to share any memory, like one story of your mom that's coming to mind?
I'm going to say it really quick because we had the really wonderful learning about Kavanah, which is, I remember taking one of my sons with my mom to Legoland, and I went out to the porch and daven Shathri in what she would say was a very formal manner, and then she went out and came back a few minutes later and I said, what were you doing? And she said, I was praying. I was actually expressing gratitude to the fact that like 30 years before she had breast cancer, and she said that every day she, in her own way, would do it. And I thought about if you ever saw Harold and Maude, there's this line where he said to Maude, Maude, do you pray? And she says, no, I don't pray, I communicate. So I think my mom did some communicating like that.
Oh, Yehi Zichra Baruch. Maybe I'll get a fraction of that communication into our prayer from time to time. Thanks for leading us tonight. And thank you to everybody who participated tonight and led us and read for us. We're going to conclude with Havdalah in a moment. As a reminder, tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., there are services here, Daily Minyan. In the evenings, we've now moved back to 6:45 or 55 this week. Anyone know? I think we might be at 6:45 now. It's either 6:55 or 45. Please check the website. We're moving quickly this time of year. Please join us for evening and morning minions when you can. We're at 7:30 on weekdays. Shavua Tov, let's have someone hit the lights behind and we'll do Havdalah. If you want to follow along, 283. Yanai na nai 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 na nai nai na nai nai yanai na nai 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 yanai na nai 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 yai na nai 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 Yeshuati, Haftach velo hechad, Ki ozi v'zimaratya, Adonai vayehi li Yeshua, Ushaftem mayim v'sayson, Mimaynei Yeshua, L'Adonai Yeshua, Aloha v'irchatzacha sela, Adonai Tzevaot Imanu Miskavalaynu Elohei Yaakov Selah Adonai Tzevaot Ashrei Adam Botei Hafach Adonai Hoshia Hamelech Yaneinu V'yom Koreinu La Yehudim Hai Tahora V'simcha v'sason v'ikar Kein tiyeh lanu Kos Yeshuotesa U'v'shem Adonai Yikra Savri Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Borei peri hagafen Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Borei Minei Besamim. Would you mind bringing these any small one over that direction to whoever's first in line and just pass it to them, okay? Then they can smell it. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei meorei ha'esh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamavdil ben kodesh lechol ben or lechoshech ben Yisrael amim, vein yom hashvi'i l'sheshet yamei ha'maseh. Baruch atah Adonai, hamavdil ben kodesh lechol. Take a sip. Hamavdil ben kodesh lechol, chatoteinu imchol, zareinu v'chasveinu yarvei yarvei kachol, v'hakochavim v'layla, zareinu v'chasveinu yarvei yarvei kachol, v'hakochavim v'layla, Eliyahu hanavi, Eliyahu hatishvi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu.
David, Mashiach.
David. Shavua Tov, healthy and happy week to everyone.
Shavua Tov. Hi, Taiwan. Shavua Tov.
Yeah, Shavua Tov, Gary and Marlies, and the other person still on that I don't know how to pronounce your name.
Oh, I can't read it.
It's I'm gonna try Ferdos, but that could be totally wrong.
Shavua
I
Tov,
apologize if I
everybody.
said it wrong.
Your daughter's there. Our son was there. We saw him.
Oh, I might have seen him, but not have known who he was.
Yeah, and last week he did the El Male for
very nice.
for Gary's father.
Very nice.
And I think we got off. I'm sorry, we got off kind of abruptly last week.
Yeah, under control.
Because we were trying to figure out. We were supposed to go to Big Bear Lake last Sunday, and they have a fire. So we had to go, but
Seems like a lot longer.
Is Big Bear Lake a Southern California thing?
Yeah, it's San Bernardino.
It's 100 miles from our house. It had major fire.
Yeah.
Lost a lot of places. It wasn't in last week. Well, finally, the wind didn't pick up today, and the heat is way down. So we should work on it. We're on a 5-day trip.
Yeah. Another time. How are you doing?
I'll just say thank you for asking.
Okay. Well.
It's been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi.
Oh, so is it still being recorded? Oh yeah, I don't want to. How can I say this? The recording. A lawyer who left a firm, and I don't have a lawyer anymore because the firm didn't. The firm that he was the only one who did happens to be workers' comp at that firm, and I hear him coming up. It's just a gigantic mess, and without my asking, the firm emailed my file with me, not password protected, and it was full of protected health information, whatever. But worse than that, it had other people's private medical information in it, including someone of all things with a tie to Bethlehem. I'm like,
oh dear.
right. And after I go through up, I have to write a really strong letter to this law firm about how horrifying it was. All this stuff.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, but sometimes when you see, or at least hear me, private information about other people, I wish that I didn't know it. Well, this is somebody else with the Beth Am connection. I'm like, oh, give me a break. Anyway, that was my friend, which I didn't work on my letter. Anyway, what is new with you other than hoping to go away?
Yeah, what else is new?
Well, our son is going to Israel in a week.
Yeah, that's me. In a week tomorrow. Our son is going to Israel.
For how long?
in 2 weeks.
And is he going with a program?
There is a program, yeah. He's doing some volunteering for a program, and then he's also going to see his friend. Actually, the son of this gentleman, Gordon Burnett Cunin, who just led the
All
Mariners
right,
Club
I know
to
who
the
he is.
end. His son is one of Benji's dearest friends, and he made Aliyah, and Benji is going to spend some time with him there. So,
Is he someone who's a lone soldier then?
yeah, yeah, he's there. I mean, he's married, and his brother is also there. His brother also made Aliyah, one of his
Oh,
brothers.
this sounds familiar. I think maybe last year. It was,
And the other daughter, the younger son, and then the other daughter is now the junior rabbi at
Sinai Temple in Los Angeles, Rabbi Gabriela Kornskold. So, but anyway, yes.
Is Sinai Temple the one where they're a married couple, Era Sherman?
Yes.
Yeah. After Rabbi Wolpe retired.
Right, exactly.
Actually, I did that Elul thing on Boxcast where Asher Cohen of Hebrew University was at Sinai Temple. You know, the Rabbi Schatz organized that Elul across that. I think that was Thursday night where Asher Cohen of Hebrew University talked.
Okay. There was something. Okay, maybe that wasn't. There was one we tried to get onto. It kept saying the link was bad. That might have been Wednesday night. I don't know if it was Wednesday or Thursday.
Oh, this one, it was said it was on Zoom, but it wasn't Zoom. I emailed the American Friends of Hebrew University, that was the contact, and they sent me back something that was Boxcast, which I had never even heard before.
Oh, interesting. Oh, yeah, I've never done that either.
Yeah,
okay.
That's weird.
And
at least you got a piece of it.
Yeah.
It may be on. Tonight.
You know what? I can send you the link in case the recording's on the link.
Okay, yeah, sure, that's great. Okay.
I'm
You're doing your mitzvah already.
Wait, what?
You're doing your mitzvah so early.
Say that one more time?
On your mitzvah, when you're getting back.
Oh, got it. It may take me a few minutes because I'm lying down.
No problem. We have plenty of time.
But tonight I will send it to you in case the same thing you can play. The only thing I'm going to warn you is, even though it starts, they started the recording about 10 minutes early before the speaker, and unlike where YouTube or something, I know how to advance it. I didn't know how to advance it, so I just, I wouldn't know how to tell you to advance it. That's what I'm trying to.
Okay.
So let me ask you.
Yeah.